I asked you over on Instagram to send me some of your stories, your quandaries, questions, and I thought we could go through them together. I just want to put a disclaimer in here because I haven't actually read these yet. Fingers crossed they're actually going to be okay to publish on YouTube. I guess we'll find out. First email. Hello, BAM Famalam. I recently discovered your channel and have been watching your videos. Thank you very much. I have dreamed of emigrating to Australia since I was 19. I'm 36 now. I have 2 girls aged 3 and 1. I want now more than ever to move to Australia to give them better lives. The issue is my wife refuses to move there. She doesn't want to leave her family and friends. I am trying so hard to convince her, but it's currently going down like a lead balloon. Do you have any advice on how I could persuade her? Regards, Jason. Well, Jason, come to the right people. Do you know, the funny thing is, when Ben and I first started speaking of immigration, Ben mentioned it first. He wanted to move to Canada. I said, absolutely not, no way. It was cold enough in the UK in the winter and there was just no way I was going to do that to myself. I'm sure Canada is absolutely lovely, but I couldn't handle somewhere that gets colder than England. I said no to Canada. And I said, but we can move to Australia, I'll happily move there. And Ben said no. He was completely adamant that he would never move to Australia. He didn't want somewhere that didn't have all these different seasons. He didn't want somewhere that was warm all year round. And we were at complete loggerheads. So what we decided was that we would both keep an open mind and we would look into both options. We got on the phone to my cousins who live in Canada and they told us lots of amazing things about Canada, and it, you know, truly they have an amazing life there. And then I booked us a holiday to the Gold Coast and that swung it. And I don't know, Jason, I don't think you've mentioned your wife's name, have you? But I'm wondering whether maybe you could convince her to go on a holiday, and maybe that is all that's needed. Because I tell you something, and that is that Australia sells itself. There is no amount of anything that I could have said to Ben to convince him that Australia would be the right place for him. However, when he came here and saw it for himself, now that sold him. I would maybe suggest that if it's possible, you book a holiday out here, show her what it's like and see if she falls in love with it. If not, I think okay, so the thing that you say she's concerned about is leaving her family and friends, and I really get that. And there are some people that they're just such home birds and they really, really couldn't be without family and friends. Maybe it's not the best move for everybody, but there is FaceTime, you know, and that changes everything. It really does, because I don't feel like I am not seeing my family and friends. I feel like I see them all the time. If you keep going on, then she's just going to get annoyed with you. I think your best bet is to get her on a holiday out here. I honestly think it would sell it to anybody. Best of luck, Jason, and keep us updated. The subject of this one is Poms from sunny Blackpool, UK. Hey BAM Famalam, I am bringing my wife, in brackets, the boss, always the way, round to the idea of moving to Australia, thanks to your amazing videos. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and we're so happy to help. However, she has insisted that we need to go on a recce over there before we can contact a visa agent. I'm trying to figure out how to go about doing a 2-week recce to Australia in Brisbane. I would love to know how you went about doing your recce and if there was anything you would have done differently if you did a recce again. Lots of love from sunny Blackpool in England, the Sheriff family. Oh, lots of love to you too. Ben and I, we jump into things head first, and we booked a recce a week after deciding we were going on a recce. So we jump into things without really thinking. We're a little bit like that. We think, but not for too long. One thing that we did do that we made a mistake with was we packed our days full of fact finding. So we made sure that we were looking around properties. We went and spoke to agents, visa agents while we were there. or immigration agents while we were there. We went and, oh God, what else did we do? We really did try and get everything done, and we wanted to see as many suburbs as we could. We wanted to get a feel for different areas. We went out for dinners. I've got to say, actually, we didn't do that well at doing it because Ben is he's not here to defend himself, but I think it's fair to say that Ben gets really terrible jet lag, and to tell you the truth, he's an absolute monster for a freaking week after landing in Australia. And we were packing our days so full that he was just getting angrier, and then I was getting annoyed with him, and we ended up in a restaurant, I think about 5 days after arriving, and we couldn't even look at each other. We were so angry with each other. And I think at that point we were just going, we're just not going to move. Like, I literally can't spend another day with this moron. God, I can't believe I just said that. Anyhow, that evening we sat down and said, hey, this is not going well. We're not moving. We've tried to do too much. Like, this just isn't going to work. And at that moment we decided, okay, let's actually just enjoy ourselves. We'll do the odd thing, but we need to actually focus on enjoying ourselves while we're here, because we're not getting a real feel for what's going on around us. We're just, you know, angrily searching and looking at houses, and yeah, it just doesn't work. That was very wittery, terribly sorry about that. Long story short is we really suggest that you focus on enjoying yourself and actually having a holiday, because if you try and pack it full of fact finding, then although you do need to do that fact finding, if you try and pack it full of that, then you might end up like we did, of just falling out and then feeling like you don't want to move and just having an angry holiday. We did bring it back, just to clarify. That evening we spoke, and after the restaurant incident of getting cross with each other, we did pull it back around, and we then went and enjoyed ourselves and still did some fact finding. Make sure you get down to that beach, make sure you have a day out, you know, just do fun things. Okay, next email. Hi Ben and Maz. Okay. My question to you is about regional Australia. Many of us are looking into visas, and some visas require you live in regional Australia. When I first heard the word regional, I panicked. My heart sank, and I assumed that this would mean that we would have to live in the deepest, darkest outback. However, this is not the case at all. Regional basically only excludes the major cities from what I can see. Please can you expand on life in regional towns and cities, and what are the pros and cons of living there? Are our preconceived perceptions of these areas totally wrong? I don't know if it's still the case, but when we moved over, the whole of the Sunshine Coast was regional, and while it was quieter than it is now, it's not quite as modern as Brisbane, it's not quite as modern as the Gold Coast, but it's still somewhere blimmin' lovely to live. And we've got everything we could possibly need. We've got decent hospitals, we've got shopping centres, we've got restaurants, we've got supermarkets, heaps and heaps of cafes. We have everything we need. The schools are excellent. To be honest, if the Sunshine Coast is still regional, and I'm sure there are regional areas like this all over the country, especially, you know, within an hour or two of major cities, I think that these regional visas are a really good option, because they seem to be a little bit more lenient and a little bit easier. I actually think they're a smashing option. You could live somewhere like we used to, which was right on the coast. We had everything close by, or you could move half an hour inland like we do now, and to be honest, it is a little bit harder because we've not got everything around us, but it's still perfectly decent. You can go to areas that are a little bit further out. I don't know if that's the best idea for someone who's completely new to Australia, just because you might feel a little bit isolated if you're too far out. From what I can see is that these regional towns are fully equipped and actually better than the major cities with regards to traffic, healthcare, cost of housing, etc. Now, just quickly, with regards to traffic, probably yes. That's definitely a benefit. When we hit traffic now, I get really agitated because I've not had to deal with it for so long. I really struggle with it. Healthcare, I mean, It's going to be different all around Australia. Certainly on the Sunshine Coast, we've got excellent healthcare, but I don't know that that is the case in all regional areas. Obviously, there will be provisions because people live there. I don't know that it's any better than the city. Like if you needed to go to a specialist, you'd probably want to be near the city as opposed to in a regional area, but hey ho. Cost of housing. It depends where you go that's regional. Like the Sunshine Coast has really, the prices have increased a lot. I don't know that they're much better than every city, but again, that depends on the regional area. So that you'd have to have a look on like I was going to say Rightmove, that's English. Have a look on realestate.com or Domain, and you'll be able to see prices for every area. Can you also share with me which village area you chaps live in? I know it's the Sunshine Coast, but where in the Sunshine Coast? The photos you share of what looks like your acreage with wild trees and grassy areas doesn't look like the Sunshine Coast. What you have looks wonderful and somewhere I would like to look at settling down. So, love your videos. Kind regards, Candice. Thank you so much, Candice. I'm really sorry, but we don't give out our suburb because while 99.9% of the people that view our channel are absolutely blooming lovely, there are the odd ones that aren't. Once it's out there, you can't take it back. We never film in our suburb, which I know a number of other YouTubers do the same, ones that we're friends with. However, what I can say is that many of the hinterland areas look like this. So I really recommend that you have a look in the hinterland areas if you want somewhere that's a bit more bushy and with acreages. The hinterland on the Sunshine Coast is the place for you to look. If you enjoyed this video, then please send in your stories, send in your anecdotes, please send in your questions, your dilemmas. I want your funny stories. I love a funny story. I want to hear of the times that you've completely put your foot in it or something really embarrassing has happened. Send it all to hello@thebamfamalam.com. If you're moving to Australia, then we have got 3 ebooks out which are part of a series. The first one of which is Should I Move to Australia? The second one is Your Guide to Immigration. It's kind of like the Bible of immigration. And the third one is Arriving in Australia, which is going to help you from the moment you step off the plane. These books are packed full of information with advice from us here in Australia on the ground. You can download those today at our website, thebamfamalam.com. See you Sunday.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't